Welcome viewers to the continuous RTO Standards 2025 series of vlogs. Today we will cover Standard 3 related to wet workforce. So let's start with it. This Standard 3 of the RTO Standards 2025 requires that the wet workforce is sufficient, qualified, skilled, and committed to professional development to perform their tasks effectively and efficiently. Let's get on with it, and then I will express what does it mean. This standard 3.1 is related to workforce that is sufficient to deliver or meet RTO requirements towards their learners or students. Now, what is a sufficient trainer and assessors? Now, there is no static figure that has been provided by RTO standards, and no regulatory authority also, to my knowledge, express any specific figures. This must be there. But what sufficiency means is that RTO, when is in its operations, it must have sufficient number of trainers and assessors that in case somebody for any reason is unable to attend in an emergency, they can inform RTO, but RTO need not to cancel its class or assessment scheduled that day. Rather, the second trainer and assessor can take over and make sure that the RTO's operations are continued. It doesn't also means that every course that is being delivered should have two RTO trainers and assessors, qualified trainers and assessors related to that course. Neither it means to have 3 or 4 per course, because there can be an argument that if two people both can, like in COVID-like situation, get infections and they both are not there, should the third one be enough? Should the fourth one be enough? So there is no hard and fast rule here, but what you need to remember is that RTO has a system to ensure that operations go on. Okay. Yes, COVID was a pandemic situation, but pandemic situation is not always there. And rules or policies are designed not for unusual situations, rather for normal routine matters. So if one trainer is unable to come, the second can continue. So, but for instance, I know, and it is perfectly all right if there are, let's suppose, 4 or 5 courses those are being delivered, or 10 courses are being delivered, and there are 12 trainers available with competencies to deliver or be part of each area. So those will be sufficient, as 10 would be coming. In case something goes wrong with the first one, there is a replacement. So second replacement is also there. The regulating authorities understand that yes, RTO doesn't need to employ 100 trainers and assessors or any specific numbers, but some system backup is there. In case one is not there, second is available to take over and ensure that the process goes on. I can share with you an example of one of the largest staff. What they do is, if they are having 50 classes of a course, they would have about 20 or little more number of casual supports trainer assessors. Those in case needed are there to replace. So such should be a system that RTO has a backup plan to ensure that it continues. It doesn't mean every RTO need to have 20 surplus casual staff on their register of contracts and employment. It just means that RTO has enough or has a system to ensure that if there is one person absence or two persons absence, system doesn't collapse. RTO doesn't stop its operation, it continues. So that was sufficiency, but what more than trainers and assessor RTO would require a small RTO or a medium size. They may not have the facilities and resources like TAFE for that matter. So what are the minimum things or positions those should be there to provide a reasonable amount of services to the students or the learners? So they, of course, definitely there ought to be a CEO and there should be an RTO manager. Now, in smaller, they can be the same or they can be different individual. It's better to have different, so because they both have different tasks to perform. However, if resources do not permit, they can be one. The same person can assume both the roles. Though ideally, it is better to have two different people looking after these two positions, trainer and assessor, depending on the number of courses and number of classrooms you are delivering. For each course, you can hire the number of trainers and assessors. Next comes a compliance officer. This also is a very critical position to ensure, because the players in the field may not know what is things which an observer, their manager or coach can observe while they are playing in the field. Similarly, a compliance officer knows what is happening more as an observer in the training or assessment areas, if the person is observant or if they are responding to certain critical situations. So he or she, if is well conversant or is in touch with the ongoing changes by the regulatory authorities such as ESQA in regards to the operations matter, he or she is in a better position to guide the RTO's management what direction to take. So a position of a compliance officer is also recommended. Similarly, a student welfare officer. In the previous vlog, we were talking about student support or welfare. This well-being, this is something which is also very critical and must be a person who is pretty friendly and with meeting whom students should feel comfortable expressing themselves. So the more outgoing and friendly this person would be, the better impact it will be on the students, and student will be more comfortable in talking to and sharing their issues and problems with that person. Another position that is required is RTO data and SMS administration. Every RTO is required to compile data and submit reports which are part and parcel of the RTO operations requirement to their regulatory authorities such as ESQA, and in case they are funded to Skill First. Now, if there is a dedicated person for it, the better it would be. So that is another position that will help RTO to ensure sufficient staff is there, skillful staff is there, quality staff is there, and they will help RTO's operation to deliver what they are supposed to deliver, including looking after their students. And finally is the finance and administration or logistics. A person is required to look after the financial matters, prepare financial reports, accounting reports, and similarly look after the logistic and administration matters. So these are the minimum staff requirements, and each and every role requires continuous professional development, which the RTO should be looking into. Standard 3 continues. The next one we have on wet workforce is 3.1, which is related to the workforce effectively getting managed to ensure appropriate delivery of services. Now, RTOs are supposed to demonstrate how it facilitates access to continuing professional development opportunities to enable staff of the organization to effectively perform their roles and meet their responsibilities. Now, how to do that? There are no hard and fast rule, but all part and parcel of good practices is if this training needs is attached or is linked with the performance review system. So whether that performance review is quarterly, 6 monthly, it should be more than annually, once a year. So that helps keeping online and meeting the set targets of the professional development activities. So I remember one of the larger TAF, what we used to do was there used to be annual meeting, and in that annual meeting we used to have quarterly targets and milestones to achieve, and then a 6 monthly, and so on after the third quarter, and then meeting finally again for the annual review to see how the targets were achieved, if they were surpassed, or if they were lagged, why, what were the reasons. So those setting up milestones or targets will help the professional development activities going on. And it is primarily RTO's responsibility, and one way they can do so is not only to meet with the staff identifying their professional development needs or capacity buildings, is to also allocate a budget to it, so staff knows that the management is serious and they want them to be trained and improved for better service provision to their clients that primarily are your students. I hope it is clear. So let's move on to the next one, which is 3.2. Training and assessment is delivered to vet students by credentialed people with current skills, knowledge in training and assessment. It is primarily related to trainers and assessors. So what they are supposed to do, their RTO standards both in 2015 and 2025 clearly set the rules who can be a trainer and assessor. So I would encourage you to go, but just to cover, minimum requirement is certificate 4 in training and assessment. These days the current code for the certificate currency is TAE 40122. And if you hold a higher, such as diploma or a degree in education, focus on adult education, or your master, even better. Then, but in certificate, the only issue is that whenever this qualification is superseded, it is advised that the trainers upgrade their existing certificate qualification. However, if you are holding higher, such as a master or graduation, you don't have to worry about it. Even diploma is higher than certificate 4, so it is good to have it. Second is the industry exposure or experience. It shouldn't be obsolete. So it doesn't mean if you have let's say the TAE, but you have your industry relevance is and you are in technology and your industry relevance is 10 years old, or for that matter in any field, if it is more than 2 years gap, then there is a potential that you are not in touch with the current industry requirements and operations systems. So you need to get upgraded. So that is one of the reasons that these new standards encourage the trainers to have direct links with the industry experiences. So whether it is on voluntary basis or whether it is part-time for few months or so, the minimum PD requirement, just for the benefit of viewers, is set at only 100 hours per year. So if you have completed 100 hours, 100 hours over a period of 5 years, so that's correct, 20 hours per year, which is not much. So whether you align yourself with the placement providers or with other industry companies to upgrade or keep in touch, even in voluntary roles or associate roles, that is good enough. I'll speak further in detail little later what type of activities are considered as part of professional development. Uh, Performance indicators for this standard 3 includes that apart from holding appropriate credentials for delivering of training and assessment, as I was sharing with you, so even if you have TAE, an older version, say 40100 or 116, yeah, if and along with those credentials you are continuously teaching, so you, as far as vocation is concerned, you are current, and you also have some additional assessment updated units of competencies, such as LLN 411 and others, then you are eligible to keep going. You do not have to do the certificate 40122 TAE. So having said that, the other one is that the credential policy permits a person to deliver any training or assessment under direction. The organization has system in place that ensure the person does not make assessment judgment and is delivering quality training and assessment. What it implies is that it has relaxed its some rules, that you don't need to have, say, TAE completed, or you do not need to have vocational qualification, whatever you are teaching, whether it is commercial cookery, whether it is individual support, child care, accountancy, or whatever, accounting, and or whatever. um, uh, you to be a qualified trainer and assessor, you ought to have minimum at the same level of qualification which you are delivering. Other than in security, there are exceptions. For instance, you ought to have a higher advanced first aid qualification to deliver HLT AID 011, which is provide first aid training. But generally, if you are holding the same level, you can deliver the same. So that is the rule of the game. But if you are, say, enrolled in that course and doing it, whether it is industry or vocation, or whether it is training and assessment certificate for TAE, you can still be part of the training team of an RTO, however, under supervision. So under supervision does not mean that the two people, the supervisor and the person who is delivering or training under supervision, ought to be together for the same amount of time. And supervision simply means the supervisor understand or knows what the trainer under supervision is delivering and how it is being delivered. That is good enough. The person supervisor need not to be present full time in the class with the trainer delivering or covering the class. So having explained that, let's move on to the next slide. It is now standard 3.2. Training and assessment is delivered to wet students by credentialed people with current skills and knowledge in training and assessment. Um, Demonstrate RTOs need to demonstrate how staff involved in training and assessment maintain up-to-date training and assessment skills. For example, they can participate kind of professional development or keeping themselves upskilled is they can participate in internal or external workshops or courses to upskill themselves, um, uh, or they can demonstrate recently completion of higher level of qualification in either training and assessment or the vocational qualification, or they can access a relevant publication related to what, be subscriber of those say industry association newsletters, etc. They can be participants of different learning networks related to the industry they are training and assessing. They can take part in validation and moderation activities that will be also considered as continuing improvement because they are learning. Each experience of validation helps you to improve and refine your previous knowledge. Shadowing or working closely with other trainers and assessors under a mentoring arrangement, that also helps. Apart from that, I remember we used to have a very nice peer teaching review committees in which we trainers and assessors related to same discipline used to observe each other in class, not for 15-20 minutes, and understand or come to know different teaching methods adopted or way of communication is held with the learners. So, and we used to learn from each other. So learning from each other is also equally important. So these are the type of activities which will keep your skills current and knowledge in training and assessment. The next standard 3.3 is related to training and assessment, delivered once again person with the current industry skills knowledge continuing. It is about all persons delivering training or assessment for or on behalf of the organization have either the industry competency, skills and knowledge relevant to at least to the level the training product being delivered. Sorry. Maintain an understanding of current industry practices relevant to the training. It may seem repetitive, but remember these are the important things and there are subtle nuances. Let me explain to you how to authenticate credentials held by, or how the system assess the appropriateness, relevance of currency of trainers and assessor. There are two type of, one is working under supervision. I will trainer and assessor. I'm sure you people now understand that they need to hold what qualifications. But those who are working under supervision, they cannot assess. That is one thing. They can train, but they cannot assess. But they can be part of the assessment activity as an observer, but they cannot on their own assess. So that is one difference. Second, ESQA encourages, so does these new standards, to involve industry experts. Now, there is a difference between industry experts and a trainee trainer who is required supervision. Industry experts doesn't require supervision. They do not work under qualified trainers and assessors. They are themselves experts, industry experts. Rather, they are the one from whom qualified trainer and assessors can learn. Why or how? Because these industry experts have currency of knowledge, the skills. They know what is happening and how they are doing or what new technologies are there they are using. So they can help trainers and assessors remain current or understand what could be added in the assessments, or how to assess what response is a better response, or even how to improve their teaching modules. So industry experts may also not have what we call TAE qualifications. They, if they have, perfect. If they do not have, it doesn't matter, because they are industry expert to help trainers and assessors improve. So if they can even be directly involved even with the students in form of guest speaker series. And I would encourage that. There was a time when I also used to involve industry experts, bring them to the classrooms, and let them share their real life experiences, what this, how under different situation, what decision they used to take. So that helps student learns, understand what the industry needs and how industry behaves. So that is the type of knowledge when they, after graduating, go to the industry, and in the interview, when they express themselves better, and industry feel more comfortable, confident in hiring them. So these experts can be involved variously by the qualified trainers and an assessor, for instance, in developing training and assessment strategies. So when popularly known as tests, so when they are involved in tests, they can suggest regarding even let's say placement hours, and they can even suggest what things need to be stressed or included or covered in the placements duration. So students must learn those things, which ought to be communicated to the providers or the placement providers by the trainer and assessor prior to the commencement of placement. So they also know, okay, training and assessment, or the RTO wants their students to learn what activities. Similarly, these experts can be involved in designing assessments or setting benchmarks while observing some practicals, like for instance, engine reassembling, or detecting an issue, or like in the childcare, you have to do first aid. Similarly, in individual support, etc. So what things need to be stressed and what not, that is something where industry experts can help the qualified trainer and assessor even to improve, and improve their currency, industry currency as well. So, having said that, explained it, I hope now viewers understand more about the experts and what role they do play in RTO's operations. So, moving to my final slide today. Yes, today's is relatively shorter, is related to wet workforce, ensuring quality in training and assessment and staff development. uh, 3.3b, where it engages an expert for the purpose of delivering training. It does so by reference to the requirements of the training product or the specific wet student cohort. This is to say that when you are seeking expertise of the expert, it should still align with the training component, not out of the domain of the training component. So whatever training is being provided, whatever skills are supposed to be provided as per the training package related to those particular aspects, the expertise of the experts need to be sought. Things to remember is where the industry expert is involved in assessment judgments, the expert conducts the assessment along the trainer and assessor, so the trainer and assessor also understands why the expert is assessing the assessment from specific perspective. However, remember, ultimately it's the trainer and assessor which is supposed to sign off the assessment. He can seek the guidance, but responsibility of an assessor as an assessor will remain on the qualified trainer and assessor, not the expert. Expert is kind of a guide in this member. The training and assessment, in the training and assessment, expert is involved delivering in subjects which are authorized under the direction of a person with appropriate credentials to provide directions. What it simply means, it's a confusing thing. What it simply means that when expert is even communicating with the students or delivering as a guest speaker, they need to align their expertise or talk to the competency, not out of the competency domain, because that is what the purpose of the expert is, to develop capacities according to the unit of competency, not beyond it, related to the course and qualification. So I hope it helps to understand what is sufficient workforce and what qualification and credentials should a qualified trainer and assessor have, along with the role of the expert in this matter. So I hope you enjoyed. The next slide will be related to the governance and accountability, and following which will be left is the schedules, where we will look into other matters. So till then, you look after yourself, and I hope to see you soon.